It's a blessing to be up here in front of you today. I have to admit I'm rather apprehensive, but too late to back out now. Okay. First things first, I am reading from a script. So if I slur my words, flub my lines, or if I'm talking too fast, please feel free to call me out on it. Okay. To open up, I'd like to share two pieces of scripture with you. Jeremiah 29:11 and Romans 8:28. Jeremiah 29:11 in the NIV reads as follows. For surely I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. Romans 8:28 from the King James reads, and we know that all things work together for the good to them that love God, to them who are the called, according to his purpose. What these mean is pretty simple. God has plans for your life, and he can use anything in that life for good. He can even use the death of something for good. Now, going along that line, I'd like to share a quote from one of my favorite books, a Star Wars novel which is set about 3 years after the original trilogy. In this quote, one of the main characters of the novel is writing a death notification after losing a pilot in combat. I cannot begin to appreciate your loss, but in reflecting upon your niece's life, I have come to a conclusion that is important to me. I no longer believe that the momentum of a life headed in a worthwhile direction ends when that life ends. Your niece shot down 5 opponents, all of whom served evil men. Had she not done so, their actions would have led to further evil, but her actions take their place instead, broadening like a firebreak into the future their actions would have occupied. I will never know how much of what I see is a result of your niece's actions. Her future will be invisible to me, but invisible is not the same as non-existent. Now here's an example I can share to illustrate both of those scriptures and my quote from my own life. About 8 years ago, I was the shyest, most introverted person you'd ever meet. I was also heading to Bowling Green State University to live on campus for the 2005-2006 school year. Now, Mark, the proprietor of 2 arcades in the city, forced himself into my life and just refused to leave. He'd invite me out to do things around the city, he'd occasionally let me play his games, and he would invite me along on arcade machine pickups and deliveries. Through his actions, I found myself more and more looking forward to doing things outside of my dorm room. One of my fondest memories of that time is somehow helping him fit an entire skee-ball machine into a Chrysler Town and Country, then taking it 10 hours from Bowling Green to Philadelphia. Then about this time 6 years ago, we were working to set up a new arcade in Ohio City, Ohio, which is on the near the Indiana border. Thank you. While we were doing that, I remember getting mad over something trivial. I don't remember what it was anymore. It was that bad. Mark and I got into a scuffle over it, and then I wound up knocking him down and his ACL tore. This had the indirect result of causing him to lose his job, and it caused a lot of friction between him and his wife, who did her utmost to cut me out of their lives. Still, God did bring some good out of that. That accident finally drove it home that I couldn't master the problems in my head on my own. I needed help. And I got that help because I was deathly afraid of hurting someone else. I almost immediately started seeing a counselor for help with my anger issues, and I eventually started taking medication. And thank God I am a much better person now. Mark is not dead, but the degree of friendship we had significantly lessened. We were as tight as brothers before that accident. Afterward, I could barely talk to him because of my guilt. I'm quite thankful that he does not hold a grudge against me, and these days when he visits Tiffin, which is the nearest city to where I live, we can chat and hang out pretty easily. But not a day goes by that I don't miss what we had. The memory of what I lost is what keeps me taking my meds, even if I might not want to. And I don't want to pretty often because I have a lot of trouble with my memory because of them. Our old camaraderie is gone, but it keeps moving, and it keeps me doing what I need to do. Here's what I'd like for you to take away from this. What kind of legacy are you going to leave when you die? What if it happened tomorrow? Now, that Star Wars quote I shared with you works both ways. Just as good momentum won't end when your life ends, bad momentum won't end either. I try to live my life to set an example for my friends and for my nephew Alex, who will be 5 in September. Where am I? I hope my friends and my nephew remember the example I set when I'm gone. But if I set a bad example, they'll remember that too, so I won't do that. Now here's one last scripture for you to consider. Proverbs 3, 1-4. My son, do not forget my teaching, but keep my commands in your heart, for they will prolong your life many years and bring you peace and prosperity. Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of God.